Hello and welcome back to Cosmic Belonging. My name is Fola and I am grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for listening. Your support means the world, more than you even know. Now, we are still going to be going into the transits for Aries season, but intermittently I'm going to be popping in, going over transits in my own chart and also going over some of the planets and the asteroids in the sky, giving my own stories and anecdotes. And through those stories and anecdotes, hopefully you can get to know where these planets and asteroids are in your chart, where they are in the sky and how it relates to your chart. And yeah, I don't know. I think there are nuggets of wisdom that can be gained from me just being open and honest with you. So that is what I'm here to do. And today we are going to talk about Chiron, the wounded healer. Now he's called Chiron the wounded healer because he, there's a couple of different things that he has gone through, but the first thing that happened to him when he was brought into this earth is that he was shunned by his mother. Why? Because his mother didn't realize that as a god, when she procreated with a centaur, or I think he was a centaur, his father, that her baby would be half god, half centaur. And she was very disgusted by this, and so she shunned him. She wanted nothing to do with him. And so the first thing that he experienced in his life was pain, was the separating of one of the most crucial bonds that you can have is a mother and their child. He grew up and lived his life without that. Another point of pain in his life is that he was a great warrior. He became a warrior despite the pain that he had. And he was one of the most magnificent warriors on the battlefield. But he was shot with an arrow and it buried underneath his skin and it was never able to come out. So like, you know how like the head of an arrow gets lodged in somewhere. It's kind of like some people walk around with bullets in their skin or underneath their skin. That's what he was stuck with after a great battle. And so he forever felt this pain. He was unable to get away from it. No matter what he did, no matter where he went, it was like a pinch, even though I'm sure it was more painful than a pinch. But it would always be there underneath the skin, underneath the surface. And he lived his life bearing that pain. But even though he was experiencing a great deal of pain, he still became a teacher. After being a warrior, he became a teacher of the gods. He taught and trained each god how to become the best version of themselves, the best warrior they could be. And how did he do this? He figured out their unique source of pain, their Achilles heel. So Achilles is actually the only person who was trained by Chiron, who never actually took his wisdom. And that's why you have the Achilles heel story and his defeat and downfall. But what Chiron would do is he would find their one weakness, their one source of pain, their sore point, and he would, I don't think he would rub dirt in it, but he would definitely prick at that pain to get them to see it, to get them to recognize it. Because the worst thing you can do when you have a sore spot in your life is push it away, is ignore it. Facing your fear, facing your pain actually gives it less power. It gives you more power. It puts you in the driver's seat. Awareness is everything. And so that's where you get the trope of the wounded healer, is because not only did he carry his pain with him for the rest of his life. Oh, did I forget to mention that he was immortal? So So it was literally like forever and ever and ever, like that SpongeBob meme. Until he, made a deal with Zeus and was able to, not be immortal anymore. But I digress. He carried his pain, but through his own pain, he was able to heal other people through their own pain. He was able to find a cure. And so Chiron in our life, it shows up as the wound that we carry with us. The wound that can be irrational, or it can be very deep-seated. Actually, it is very deep-seated, and it is somewhat irrational. It shows up in our lives to help us heal. We carry it with us. And each time we experience that particular pain, we have nothing to do but to look it in the face and to derive a little bit more power from it every single time. And through deeply understanding this pain in ourselves, we are then able to help others when we see it in the world. Now, I say all that to say that Mercury is trining my Chiron right now. Mercury in Aries is trining my Chiron in Leo. And also for the collective, Chiron is in Aries, and it has been traveling through Aries for quite some time now. It actually stays in the sign of Aries for about 8 years. And so the wound of our self-assertion, the wound of our ego, the wound of going for our heart's desires, it has been showing up in the collective. We have been learning to heal it little by little. So finding Chiron in your chart is pretty important, all right? Because it is something very integral to who you are. It is a pain that you have probably carried for most of your life since childhood. And having a deeper understanding of that pain, of that unique wound, it can help you to face it. It can help you to work on it, to grow from it. And also, this happens subconsciously, whether we know it or not, but it can help you to help other people who have a very similar wound. A little later on, I'm going to go over the basics for each Chiron placement. Don't worry, I won't leave you hanging. All right, back to Mercury trining my Chiron. My Chiron is in Leo, in the 6th house of Virgo, the 6th house of everyday habits, routines, health, and work. There we go. But it's also in Leo. So it's kind of like in both. So what you want to do with your chart is you want to find what sign Chiron is in, look up the attributes of that, and then you want to find what house Chiron is in, correlate that house with the sign of the house, and then look up Chiron in that sign as well. Okay, so it's kind of like I have Chiron in Leo and in Virgo. And I'll show you how that shows up in my life. So Chiron in Leo is a desperate desire to be seen fully. You know, it's a feeling of being invisible, of not mattering, of your talents not being seen, of your creativity not being shown or appreciated. And Chiron in Virgo is basically feeling like you're not good enough. Like everything you have to do or everything you do has to be perfect. Or there's always a flaw in everything that you do. So Chiron in Virgo tends to do the Virgo thing and pick itself apart. And Chiron in Leo feels like that kid who keeps raising his hand in class and the teacher won't pick on. or call on. And so, how has that shown up in my life? Well, if you didn't know, I am a dancer. I'm a performer. I'm a creative. I love all things creativity. Even drawing, even though drawing is not my thing. Oh, I paint and it looks really wild sometimes, but I love it anyway. But particularly in dance, I mean, honestly, in theater as well, but specifically in dance, because that is the thing that I've done since I was able to stand. I have always felt like I had a deeper talent that was just not being shown. As irrational as it is, because, I look back on it and I'm like, oh yeah, Fola, you were shining. And I think that's important to note, that your Chiron can be irrational, although it is still a valid sore point for each and every one of us, our Chiron. I have always been that kid who busted her ass and had so much passion. And I can say it now, so much talent. But I always felt like I wasn't as good as the other kids, or at least I wasn't being appreciated like the other kids. It shows up kind of both ways with Virgo and Leo, where I was picking myself apart, thinking about all the things that I could do better. And I still do it when I watch videos of myself. I see everything that is wrong first. And it is something that I am working on. But also the Leo aspect, I always used to choke at auditions when I was younger. It didn't matter how much I practiced, and I would do it all the time. I would practice on the side in auditions, close my eyes so that I know the combination. I know the combination. And whenever I would get on, like it would be my turn, I would choke. And I realized that it was painful for me because I know that my talent was worth being shown and properly represented by myself. And on that Virgo end, I felt like I was never good enough to get the gig. It was always my fault, and I realized that not only did I have a fear of not being seen, I had a fear of being seen. And that's why I would choke, because as soon as I felt those eyes on me, I would get so nervous, so self-conscious, that I wasn't able to be myself. I wasn't able to do the thing that I was good at because I was worried that people were looking at me. And I was worried that I wasn't good enough. And subsequently, it created this loop of me not being able to show my talents because I was worried about being seen and how people would think about me, how people would look at me, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't as good as the person next to me, that I would do something wrong, that it perpetuated itself. And I got stuck in this cycle. And so I was like, you know what, fuck this. I am not auditioning anymore. It is no good for me. It's bad for my self-esteem. I'm not getting the jobs anyway. I'm wasting my money. I'm calling out of work, like all this stuff. I was just like, no. And not too far after that, I began teaching. I began teaching dance to children. Actually, that's a lie. I was teaching dance at the age of 14, which don't know why that was happening, because I was teaching kids that were like older than me, and it happened randomly. And anyway, I've been teaching for a long time, but I went back to teaching And I found the same thing happening in my students. I mean, I couldn't identify it at the time, but I could see it. From a very young age, I could see that some students, they loved dancing, but they didn't want to be watched. They loved doing their thing. They loved performing, but as soon as they felt like people were looking at them, they shut down. They clammed up. And it is very difficult in a dance class to be like, nobody look at me ever. And when I say clam up, I mean stone cold clammed up, like I'm not moving, you can't make me. And at first I was a little resentful of that. I was like, I'm giving you an opportunity to shine, an opportunity to perform. You should be grateful. You should be excited about it. This is the thing that you love, right? But of course, me taking that route is not, it's not going to help the kid who's scared to death, And so I started boosting them up, coaxing them into it. Sometimes candy works, but also just affirmations work, telling them that this is the thing that they love. I can see their talent. I can see their passion. And so they shouldn't let anybody be able to take that away from them, even if it is just taking it away from them by looking at them and making them feel nervous. You're still giving up your art form. You are still giving up your moment. And after doing this for countless kids, because, it is, if you teach a bunch of dance classes, each class is going to have one kid that feels that way. That's kind of the ratio, I feel like, give or take. But after really understanding and getting to recognize it, because sometimes it really is just like me, and don't want to toot my own horn, but the girl's a performer. And sometimes it presents in those kids who have this immense power to perform. They need some coaxing. They need some support. They need to feel free to make a mistake, to, to look a little silly. They need to ease themselves into being free even when people are watching them. They need to adjust to letting go of what people think about them, letting go of the idea of needing to be perfect, allowing themselves to be seen and not shying away from it. And when I could truly, fully recognize that in kids, I realized, holy shit. Holy shit. That's the thing that I do. That is the thing that I do. It's why I choke. It's because I'm looking at everybody looking at me. And I'm terrified of it. I want to be seen. But when I find that people are looking at me, it scares the crap out of me. I feel a desperate desire to be perfect, to get it right every single time. And if I mess up, it's the only thing I think about. And it ruins my experience. Because what if people are going to laugh? What if they laugh at me? That would be the end of the world, right? What will people think if I mess up? Now, I'm happy to say that I am working through it, but like I said, it is my Chiron. So it is not something that is ever going to go away overnight. It is something that I will always struggle with, but I will continue to get better, letting go of the need to honestly control what people think about me, the need to know what people think about me, how they view me, the feeling of wanting to be seen but shying away, the feeling of wanting everything to be perfect, but what the fuck is perfect? What is perfect anyway? It's something that I will be dissecting and working through, taking a step back and 2 steps forward my whole life, because that's the energy of the Chiron wound. Forever and ever. I've experienced a Chiron square. I believe, yes, I have experienced a Chiron opposition as well. But I've got another square coming up, and I've got a Chiron return happening at 49, just like everybody. So yeah, Chiron's one of those tricky asteroids. It doesn't have a consistent revolution for each. So like each sign, it stays in a different amount of time. And that's why it doesn't have like, your return, depending on what sign it's in, is going to fluctuate. But like they say, around 49 is the median age for everybody's Chiron return. And then after that, the cycle starts all over again. Lucky us. All right, now let's get into these Chiron placements, okay? Now, this is just a quick snippet, a quick overview. You should definitely look into your Chiron sign and house. But I'm going to do a little quick overview for you anyway. All right. So Chiron in Aries is a wound of the self, a wound of the identity and of your personal power. Chiron in Taurus is the wound of loss. So it is about your assets and finances and being worried that one day you might lose it all. Chiron in Gemini is the wound of being misunderstood, and that has to do with communicating and also learning. This can show up as childhood classroom trauma, a speech impediment, difficulties with reading, but also as a general being misunderstood, feeling like people don't get what you're saying. Chiron in Cancer is the wound of feeling like you are unlovable, like there's just something about you that nobody can love. We already talked about Chiron in Leo, but once again, it is the wound of your creativity and talent. Chiron in Virgo is the wound of imperfection. Chiron in Libra is the wound of being alone, never finding a partner. Always being incomplete. Chiron in Scorpio is the wound of loss and death, and also the wound of being powerless. So you may be afraid of your own death or the death of the people you care about. Chiron in Sag is the wound of illusion. So it's all about feeling like the things that you knew to believe in were all a lie. It's the wound of deception and the wound to your sense of meaning. Chiron in Capricorn is the wound of recognition, feeling like you will never be recognized for the work that you've done, for the dedication that you have committed to, that people will never thank you. Chiron in Aquarius is the wound of being alone, in the grander sense of the word, of never belonging anywhere. Because it's not just about one other person. It's like not feeling like you're going to be able to fit in anywhere, not having a sense of community. And finally, Chiron in Pisces is the wound of faith, of spirituality, of feeling as though you've lost faith in your your divine creator, or at least they've lost faith in you, that your faith was all a lie to begin with. I encourage you all to go do more research about your Chiron sign and the house that Chiron resides in for you. Match up that house to the ruler of its house, and then maybe come back to this podcast and listen again, but then do a little digging into your past and your past hurts. Now, like I said, the house and the sign matter. So it's not all going to be one thing or the other. It's going to be an amalgam of both house and sign. All right? But yeah, do some digging, do some inner work, some inner healing. Ask yourself the hard questions. Get to know your Chiron a little better. I promise you, you won't regret it. It only makes you stronger and a little bit more powerful than you were the day before. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all for listening. I hope my story could help. I hope this breakdown can help. And until next time. Oh, and don't forget, you belong. Bye now. Bye.